Wednesday, July 11th meeting of the Tallahassee City Commission. For those of you who are willing and able, please stand for the pledge, the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, thank you so much for the blessings you provide us each and every day. We are especially grateful and thankful for the safe return of all the boys in the Thailand soccer team and all the efforts of those that work diligently to rescue the boys from the cave. We also pray for the unrest in Haiti and ask for your hand of protection on those working to serve the people there and pray for their safe return. We pray that you unite us as one body and one community so that together we can accomplish the work that you have called upon us to do. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. All right, Mr. City Manager, are there any agenda modifications?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. There are 4 additions. Items 1105, 1106, 1107, and 1308 have been added to your agenda material.
Nancy wants you to introduce the auditor.
We have also updated items 909, 1106, since it was originally added in 1306.
Okay, great. Well, before we go too much further in the meeting, I wanted to take a point of privilege to introduce the new city auditor who is joining us. This will be his first city commission meeting. Great time to join because you get the whole summer away from us as you get acquainted with your position. Will you all help me welcome new city auditor Joseph Melishevsky. Look forward to working with you, sir. Welcome aboard. Thank you. I also, this will be during appearances. Is that what you want to do it?
This section 5, presentations. The next item.
Great. We're now at the point of the meeting for presentations, and I wanted to first thank Mr. City Manager, you and your crews through our electric utility who went to Franklin County, specifically East Point, to help with the cleanup of that devastating tragedy. And tonight we have joining us Major Cliff Carroll with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. And I'd like to invite Major Carroll forward. I know he had a few comments that he wanted to make. And sir, just on behalf of the city of Tallahassee, the citizens here, our heart goes out to you all and to your community, and are praying for a speedy recovery for those folks who have been directly impacted.
Well, thank you very much. And I won't take up much of your time. I'm here on behalf of Sheriff A.J. Smith and the folks from East Point who were affected by the fire. We want to, first of all, say thank you, but thank you's not enough. Y'all are outstanding. I mean, the folks came down and they cleaned up our area, which in 2 days they cleaned up nearly 1,600 tons of debris. That's including homes, vehicles, whatever was there. They cleaned it up. And I have a special thank you to go to Tim Potter, who called me, I guess, a day or two after the fire, and he said, "Hey, what you doing?" I said, "I'm down here trying to, do this fire." And that's the way Tim is. He's just, I've known him for 20 years, and it didn't surprise me that he called. But he said, "I've got a crew. I want to come down to help clean up." And he said, "I called my boss man, which is Mr. Goad. Thank you very much, too." And Mr. Goad, without any hesitation, said, "Go do what you got to do." Well, along with 3 other local contractors, they were able to clean up our community in 2 days. So I'm not a good speaker. I'm kind of nervous.
You're perfect, man.
But anyhow, I want to really thank Tim and Mr. Goad for what they've done and all the employees that came down. So
That's awesome.
Really appreciate it.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you very much again for being here.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, with your indulgence, I appreciate your leadership on this. We were communicating with your offices, and I appreciate your support allowing our crews that had the resources and had the ability to go help. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to recognize just really quickly, I've got a list of names that I'd like to read and thank them for what they did. Randy Oots, Chris Hewitt, Michael Langston, Richard Peters, Kevin Barrett, Mike Hunter, Bobby Thomas, Brandon Hendrickson, Taylor Thompson, Thomas Skipper, John Stevens, Terry Plummer, John Daniels, Todd Hacker, Shane Voss, and Tim Potter. And I appreciate them going and putting their energy into it. They did it faster. And, you know, this is kind of becoming a routine. They do it faster than you think they can do it. I know that's a lot of help, and I appreciate them doing that work for us.
Yeah, thank you for that. In addition, obviously, to those individuals, there have been a number of civic organizations, individuals, and charities that have come together also to provide relief for our neighbors, and want to acknowledge those organizations and individuals as well. Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Goad. Commissioners, we're now at the point in the meeting to hear from speakers on items that are agended. Mr. Treasurer Clerk, are there any speakers?
Mayor, we have several speakers. The first speaker is Erwin Jackson. He'll speak on item 1307, which is our ethics training update. He'll be followed by Stanley Sims. I'll ask speakers to speak from the microphone in the center of the room, and if they'll give their name and address, I'll start a timer. You'll each have 3 minutes for your remarks.
Wonderful. This is wonderful. Erwin Jackson, 1341 Jackson Bluff, Tallahassee truth teller. I've got a lot of truth to say tonight. Being first is certainly a surprise. I told the City Commission almost a year ago to investigate the corrupt actions of Rick Fernandez. This commission made a decision based on my recommendation. They refused to investigate anything, and instead they gave him a bonus and a 6-month paid vacation at the city expense. In contrast, after an hour presentation by the Florida Ethics Commission, the commissioners there found that Fernandez, you can call it probable cause, I call it guilt, was guilty of ill-gotten gifts. He took stuff that wasn't his. Well, I see here one other thing. I also went ahead on October 24th, 2017, and at my personal expense, a lot of time and labor from staff in my office, gave you folks this document. Now, how many of you have actually read this? Does anyone remember it? Okay. Nancy, if you've read it, why haven't we started a criminal, at least an investigation? You can't do a criminal investigation. Someone here should have already called FDLE. What it says in here is we have Mr. Fernandez using his labor, our labor, city materials, to repair and modify his personal house, his daughter's home that he owns, and also a special request, Mr. Gillum, to run out and fix a pipe in his backyard, which violates everything in the book. Now, why haven't we had an investigation of that? Has anyone called FDLE and asked them to get involved? I'm just curious. Has anyone?
We don't want to interrupt your 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, please, if someone's called FDLE, interrupt me. I'll waive my next minute and a half. Anyway, that's the problem. So when I saw we were going to talk about ethics and ethics training, no ethics training is going to prevent corruption in City Hall. What's going to prevent this in the future? I've already talked with FDLE, and if they'll go after Fernandez's retirement, we've got his salary. If we get his retirement, then this nonsense will stop. Thank you very much, and I appreciate my assistant holder here.
Next speaker.
Next speaker is Stanley Sims, speaking on item 907, which is approval to release a RFQ for Human Services Needs Assessment, followed by Jake Kiker.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Stanley Sims. I'm at 1320 Avondale Way. I want to say, as I said to the mayor earlier, I'm very pleased with the remarks from the Budgetary Committee when it comes to the CHSP process, because when there is clarity of what is expected as us who want to partner with the city, then it diminishes our perception of maybe someone else is getting some extra leverage that they shouldn't be getting. And for the record, let me just clarify something. I have personally worked for Linda Nelson. Matter of fact, the first time I met our new city attorney was after the situations when I met Ms. Nelson doing Service First. So I've had a long life of advocating and for something that I believe in. The remainder of my time, I wanted to say something to my good brothers and friend, Mayor Gillum, and to you, also Curtis Richardson, that deals with economic development regarding the beer thing. And it's really regarding to the CRA and the process of the CRA. The CRA, and you said something about Winn-Dixie, and it's unfair, and I don't know if that was your intention, but I just want to clear it up if it is, because I could have fed into that to say the closing of Winn-Dixie resulted in the support of Piggly Wiggly, because then you would have to connect the Piggly Wiggly on Tharp Street, and that's a mighty strong reach to, you know, when we were talking about you leverage one business, it has a negative effect on another business. I know I'm back in another meeting in regards to the CRA, but what I was saying that is not a good example there, because Winn-Dixie prices compared to Piggly Wiggly prices, even when you're poor, doesn't mean that you're not a smart shopper. So there are some other mitigating factors in there, and I just ask that it's these kinds of disconnect that Roseanne lacks, in my opinion, that when these types of proposals are coming to you all, they're not vetted with the sensitivity of the community that they're trying to put them in. When I was describing a beer garden, we've had beer gardens for a long time. It's up under the tree when we couldn't go in the front door to buy alcohol. So just that analogy of using my taxpayer dollars to support something that I think is wrong when we are still #1 in the state for crime.
You have just a couple of seconds remaining.
And I look on the list, there's not an increase in funding for human services for crime, but we're spending a lot of money in enforcement and structure. And when we started this journey with Operation Safe Neighborhoods, you know, Curtis, you know me and Anita, I fought for funding. We didn't have to do it like this here, because Anita had a way, there was not this wall up. You could talk to people and negotiate and feel free, and people knew your heart. This new administration has this wall, and so it makes us look in a negative way. And thank you for your grace and your mercy, but I do support the new changes to the CHSP process, and I look forward to talking to Mr. Ben Penegry. He scuffed up my angle right over here where he is. I don't know what that, I'm just joking.
Next speaker is Jake Kiker, and then Donald Gray.
Thank you all. I'll be very brief. As y'all are probably aware, last night the CRA approved 6-0 the recommendations of this body sitting as a CRA on Monday with respect to the
County Commission.
excuse me? The County Commission, yes, approved 6-0 the allocation for the arts funding that you all approved on Monday as the CRA board, due in no small part to a very, very gracious act by Lemoyne and their group to bring unity to the arts community. We're happy to say that if you all do follow suit, we will have an amazing project thanks to Ms. Althamy's Barnes in Frenchtown, certainly Lemoyne in the downtown, and TLH Arts on the south side that we're looking to bring to fruition. We simply wanted to thank you all for your time and energy. We know that it's been years in the making, but we're very happy to move forward and encourage you to once again to go along with the same plan, and we look forward to doing everything possible to bring it to fruition and continuing to work with staff on that. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Donald Gray, and then Chris Dudley.
Good afternoon, Donald Gray, 1410 Alban Avenue. I'll be very brief. Just want to say I'm grateful for the CRA's recommendation, also the county agreeing with that recommendation, and would very much appreciate, on behalf of the design team for TLH Arts, continuing to accept that direction, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Next speaker.
Very good. The next speaker is Chris Dudley. Mayor, this is the last speaker that I have a form for at this point. There are a number of speakers for the unadjourned portion, which will come at the end of our meeting.
Great. Thank you, sir. Mayor, Commission, it's a pleasure to be here today with you, and also want to thank you for reconfirming me last month to continue in my role as chairman of the Downtown Improvement Authority. Thank you for that. I come to you today. You have an agenda item coming up later on, 1303, relating to special events. This is the committee that's put together the recommendations for city support and funding for community projects, and want to certainly thank the committee. Two of the projects on there have become wonderful marquee events in our community, the summer concert series and the New Year's Eve celebration. They are recommending funding for both of those, and we thank them for that, and would certainly ask that you support that. But I'm here today because one of the recommendations they also made was not to fund the in-kind services that we had requested for the Downtown Get Down. In our opinion, the Downtown Get Down is really an iconic Tallahassee event. For nearly 25 years, it has brought families from all over the state to Tallahassee, our visitors, opposing teams for both universities. We have, last year was unique. We had a new Get Down on the north side of town. We had the Seminole Boosters moving their Get Down to College Town. So we were in a rebuilding phase, but I come to you this year to tell you that last year, where we had requested about $48,000 in in-kind services, primarily through the police department, this year we're asking for about half that amount. We're going to have a smaller footprint, certainly with the closure of Adams Street. We're going to have different themes each week. But you know, more importantly, as kind of the voice of the businesses downtown that pay extra taxes to be part of the Downtown Improvement Authority, I will tell you that what we do with the Get Down is important to them. If we are going to continue to ask restaurants to invest in downtown, to have people come down here, we need to do all we can to support them. It is a very seasonal business, as you know, with the legislature, with school, and these are things that have really shown to have a huge economic impact downtown and to their businesses. So I would ask, when you get to this agenda item, if you would consider adding the Downtown Get Down to the funding.
Got it. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next speaker.
No
That's
further
it.
speakers at this point.
All right. Thank you very much to all of those who came to share their thoughts in the public. Commissioners, we're now at the consent agenda. Are there any?
Consent.
There's a motion and a second to approve consent. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. We're now on to City Commission items. First item, 11.01, Planning Commission appointment.
Moved recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve recommendation. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. Item 11.02, approval of appointment to the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls.
Move approval of the recommendation.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Thank you for such a good recommendation there. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioners, this is an item that I asked to be added, and you see a couple of our staff and some of our TFLA fellows who are here in the room. They are fresh off of 3 different either state, national, or regional awards and recognitions for this program. I believe that who's actually making?
Dr. Williams is here to make the presentation. I see him coming in the room right now. He's got a presentation
Oh,
prepared.
you got a new last name? Who do we have? Oh, Willie. Yes, of course. Dr. Williams. Dr. Willie
You know
Williams.
him, Mayor. Do you know him?
I knew that. He got
We
that.
threw you off a little bit, Mr. Mayor.
You did. And as y'all know, Dr. Willie Williams started this program when he worked in the office of the mayor as a fellow, as one of our graduate fellows, and has continued that work now here in our Human Resources Department. Dr. Williams.
Yes, to the mayor, commissioners, and the City of Tallahassee leadership, good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
Once again, I am Dr. Williams, and it is my esteemed honor to provide you updates on the city's Summer Youth Employment Program. Before I get started, I definitely wanted to acknowledge some of the supports that we've had in place that has helped the program to grow. First of all, acknowledging the Director of Human Resources and Workforce Development, Ms. Ellen Blair, who is in here, and then also acknowledging the City of Tallahassee leadership team, as well as the mayor and the city commission for the support that you've provided. And to my left, I would definitely like to acknowledge the HR, TFLA team that works tirelessly to help pull this program off, and some of our students who decided to come and show up and see what the commission meet was all about. So if I can have them stand just for a minute and we can give them a round of applause for the great work that they're doing on a daily basis. Thank you. So without further ado, I will go ahead and start the presentation now. As a PhD, my presentations are normally 65 to 80 slides, but for tonight only, I have limited to 9 slides. So that probably deserves a round of applause itself. Yes, yes. Yes, so we will stay in snapshot mode. So what is TFLA? Tallahassee Future Leaders Academy is a premier leadership program that provides teens ages 15 to 19 with mentorship, job readiness training, literacy, financial literacy education, and summer employment. So that is the main general point behind the Tallahassee Future Leaders Academy. What I wanted to do is provide you with a snapshot of how we will have grown over the years, starting in 2015 when Mayor Gillum set forth the initiative to provide jobs and to transition the Summer Youth Employment Program into a leadership academy. We started with about 100 youth. All youth were placed within City of Tallahassee departments. 2016, we took a step back and decided, well, how can we grow this program to employ more youth? And what we did is we reached out to our local businesses who really turned out and allowed us to hire an additional 25 youth into the program. With that, we also added a curriculum of youth having the ability to provide and obtain professional certifications. And these certifications range from OSHA certifications to Safe Serve to customer service. 2017, I tell you, our local businesses really showed up. They showed up, and the main fire behind them participating was because, like us, they too went through that summer experience as youth where they had the opportunity to earn money, and they know what that feeling felt like as a teenager. So they definitely stepped up, and we were able to hire 187 youth in 2017. And with that, we started up a collaboration of universities and colleges right here in the city of Tallahassee. FAMU, Florida State, and TCC jumped on board. And not only did they hire youth, but they also provided a way for the youth to come and spend a day on each of their campuses. And then we also added a health and fitness day where we had some local city of Tallahassee trainers actually come out and work with our youth and providing fitness to them. And here we are now today, 2018. We've hired 230 youth within our program. And with the support of our commission and the mayor, we were able to actually provide the youth to work within the nonprofit arena. Now, working within the nonprofit arena provided the youth with an experience to see what it was like to have the impact of working with human services. And that is something grand that these youth had the opportunity to experience. So that in all is just a snapshot on some of the growth that we've had in just 4 years, ladies and gentlemen, growing from 100 youth to 230 and building partnerships and collaborations around the city of Tallahassee. So one of the things we looked at is how do we go from good to great? Well, one of the things we did is we based the program off of 5 pillars. The first pillar being employment, where youth have the opportunity to work 6 weeks with either a private business, a nonprofit, or within the city of Tallahassee department. From the time of 2016 when we started, we've built up 87 private business partnerships that employ 201 youth. And also in 2018, we have established 27 nonprofit organization partnerships that employ 51 youth. These are organizations outside of the city that have stepped up to take on the cause. So that's one of our pillars. Our second pillar is job readiness training, where youth on top of the 6 weeks actually do 2 weeks of job readiness trainings where they participate in different workshops. And these workshops range in everything from ethics to personal branding, interpersonal skills, leadership, and many more. Now, not only, once again, do they participate in these workshops, but they have the opportunity to earn professional certifications. And since 2015, As of this year, our youth have altogether earned 1,000 or more professional certifications. I say that again, the youth that transition through this program have earned 1,000 professional certifications coming through this program. I think that deserves a round of applause for the youth that have achieved that. Our third pillar was our college exposure. And through our college exposure, that innovative relationship allowed for us to partner with our universities here in the city of Tallahassee, where youth were able to take a guided tour with some of the ambassadors at the universities. They were able to sit in on how you do complete admissions to these universities. Where is the scholarship money? How do you get through the financial thresholds that are with these universities? So that played a key role in some of our students being able to transition into that educational realm after leaving this program. Our fourth was financial literacy training, where we partnered with a local credit union here in town, and then we also partnered with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and the youth being able to go online and do financial literacy modules where they learn one-on-one basics, budgeting basics, smart financial goals, and things of that sort that they needed, so they were able to utilize that when they received their checks from the city or from wherever their place of employment was at. And then our final addition, as far as the 5 pillars, was the community impact. Now, not only do youth have the opportunity to engage and participate in community service around the city of Tallahassee, we actually have a day that we set a time for where youth actually have the opportunity to engage with local law enforcement and all first responders as far as fire department. Now, this is the building blocks. This is where you start with building the foundation of community policing. It starts with this kind of engagement where you're not responding to an emergency. You're just building a relationship. And building relationships is something that our youth have to learn to do, as well as our professionals have to learn to do, is building a relationship when there is no fire. And maybe that can prevent a fire in the future. And one of the final things, that's me in the corner. nice shirt on. But one of the things these collaborations have built in just 4 years is we've been recognized not only at a national but international level by the National League of Cities, the International City County Management Association, which is the ICMA, and the United States Conference of Mayors. This is a feat that is not easily established. But the reason that we did it was not because of the what. The what is TFLA. We did it because of the who. And the who are the youth that participate within this program. We received over 600 applications into a program that only took 230. Youth had to complete essays, and in those essays, we had youth who responded with they wanted to gain the opportunity because they honestly did not know where to go from graduating high school. We had youth that expressed that they were 17 and they wanted a real paying job, and that the summer before they had lost 3 friends, and they did not want to get in trouble, and they had nothing else to do, so they would like to be admitted to this program. Or the youth that received the opportunity to work in this program, and it took me 2 weeks to realize this youth was wearing the same slacks, ties, and dress shirt every day. And by the time I caught on and asked them, well, why are you wearing the same outfit, they expressed that someone told them, you look very professional and you look good, and that was the only outfit they had. And we had staff that came together to purchase more professional outfits for this youth. And see, it's things like that that you realize that is not in the city of Tallahassee employees' job duties. That's not something that we're required to do. That is something that we as a city employee take on our own shoulders, and we do it because, first of all, when you look at it, that is in our mission statement as the city of Tallahassee, that we will work to improve the quality of life. That is also in our organizational values of demonstrating leadership and personal responsibility. That is also one of the critical success factors of enhancing community and neighborhood vitality. So those are the things and those are the reasons why we do what we do at the city of Tallahassee. And as long as we keep working together, we can take this program from being good to being great to being significant, because when they grow, we grow. And what I would like to do is you've heard enough from me in my 9 slides. I would like to bring up just a few of our youth who wanted to say a few things. So if I can have Ms. Hunter Balfour come forward just to say a few things to you guys.
I'm Hunter Balfour, and I am a sophomore, and I am working with Communities in Schools, which is a nonprofit that works with like dropout prevention and drug awareness. And being able to have this experience this summer has allowed me to be able to actually like talk in front of people, because I am not a very outgoing person, and I feel like that experience is very good for me because I wouldn't have talked to and gained that kind of
Done.
And I've worked with programs like Excel and Publisher, which I had never worked with before, and
Well done. Thank you.
And we had one more who just wanted to speak, and I have to give this opportunity because the youth now know where I work downstairs, and they come to see me on a regular. And I just have a cubicle with no door, so I'm allow Miss Sierra Smith to come up and say just a few things. Miss Sierra.
Hello, I'm Sierra Smith. It's been a pleasure to work with the TFLA program. I'm currently placed at the fire department, and they are a joy. And I honestly did not know that children could be placed there, so it is a great experience. I get to go on the ride-alongs. I get to learn about the fire department, which I probably wouldn't have done if I didn't join the program. I've learned time management skills. I've learned a couple of other assets that I will need in future career options, and if I wouldn't have taken this, I probably would have been at home, on my phone like most teenagers. So, Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that concludes my presentation. I thank you all for taking the opportunity to listen to what the updates and the great things we've done here with the city of Tallahassee in this program. And if you need anything else, I'm downstairs. Once again, thank you for helping us this village to raise our youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Williams. And to Ellen and to Angela and to all of the staff and obviously the fellows, commissioners, you don't need reminding that we decided to invest in this as originally, quite frankly, as a part of our effort to address some of what was happening within our opportunity zone. You'll also recall that within our opportunity zone, nearly 52% of the folks there live below the poverty level. And that is the majority of those folks live 3 times the average of what the average income is for folks in the city of Tallahassee. And these young people not only are getting the exposure, obviously, to the jobs, but the 1,000 certifications that were mentioned early on in the presentation. I just want to give you a quick sense of what they were. You can get a certification in financial literacy, customer service, community and computer skills, business etiquette, servant leadership, first aid, as well as college preparatory. And some of those are actually monetizable skills that when they go out and apply for other job opportunities as they continue to matriculate, obviously through high school and beyond, and become good contributing members, even better in contributing members to our community and to our society. And so what I love about this is that it started simply as a couple of weeks, 6 weeks of a summer jobs program, and it has evolved over that period of time into something much, much, much bigger than a summer job with a summer check. but with the ability to really impact and change life trajectory. And I think that's important. And so I'm just thankful to the commission for its investment there, and thankful to the staff leadership and all of the departments, Mr. Manager, because this is clearly something that is filtrated down within this government, our private sector partners, our human services partners have all really fully embraced this in a way that I think has been really powerful and transformative. Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. And honestly, thank you for this presentation, because I don't know if you remember, but at one of our budget meetings, I was like, what? Give us an explanation. And I'm really glad that you chose to have all these folks come and speak. And, you know, with Dr. Williams in charge, I already have seen what he does with distinguished young gentlemen, so I'm not really surprised that he's been able to apply that to many, many more people. But thank you for the presentation. I think that not only we, but the public has an opportunity to see the kinds of initiatives that are going on within the city. So thanks a lot.
You're here. Thank you all very much. Commissioners, we're now on to item 11.04. Commissioner Ziffer.
Mayor, thank you. This is a resolution. I'm not going to read the resolution. You've all had a chance to do it. Hopefully there'll be a motion to accept, and then a second, and then we'll vote. It has to do with home rule. It has to do with local decision making. It has to do with the 50th year that home rule has been granted to local municipalities, local government in our 1968 Florida Constitution rewrite. It's important for us to pass this because as the 50th year makes its way through, we continue to be under attack by our Florida legislature to remove the ability for us to make local decisions. I'll just give you a couple of examples from this last session alone, where through the infinite wisdom, through one of our legislators, not local, tried to pass the restriction that would not allow us in any way to protect our trees. They basically wanted to remove the ability for local government to protect their trees, so that anybody with want to cut down a tree could cut down a tree. Any utility, anybody could cut down a tree. 2 years ago, there was a House Bill 17 where they tried to pass that would have restricted local government from in any way monitoring business, commerce, as it was explained, which means we couldn't have sign ordinances, which means we couldn't prevent somebody from opening a bar in the neighborhood, which means we couldn't prevent somebody from towing vehicles and putting them in their backyard until they came and picked them up. Those are the kind of things that we can do locally through zoning. It would take away our ability to have individualistic parks and recreation departments. I mean, you name it. These are things that our legislature tries to take from us, and we're protected by that through home rule. But they do take a little bit, and they try at least every year. This past year, it did not happen. So we, as one of 412 cities around the state, will hopefully pass this resolution so we send a message to our state government that home rule is important. Home rule is something that we all cherish. It's the reason that Tampa is different than Tallahassee and Madison is different than Miami. It's because local government is closest to the people, and local government is the best form of democracy. So I ask you, and I'll go ahead and make the motion that we pass this, that we approve this, and send a message to those folks that would like to take away home rule. We want it to stay.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, there's a motion and a second on the item. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioners and Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioners, we're now on to
Move approval on 1105.
Second.
1105. There's a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. Item 11.06, Commissioner Miller.
Well, my name is just on this just because I felt that before the break that, well, people in the community have been asking me questions about what the status of our search for a city manager is, and I thought it was a good opportunity before we leave to get an update from our interim city manager, Mr. Goad.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Assistant City Manager Lavins led this charge, and there's some material in your agenda packet. He'll give us a verbal update tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mayor, and Commissioners.
As the manager said, the agenda item has some detailed information on the process that we have outlined and where we are in the process. But just as a brief update on where we are right now, per the direction of the commission, you asked us to engage with an executive recruitment firm, which we have recently entered into contract with. We spent a couple months reviewing proposals. We received 6 proposals. After we had sent out a request for proposals, we selected Renee Narlock and Associates, who is a local firm and has previously done work with us on executive recruitments. We have a contract with her as of June 11th. We are working with her to establish the timelines and the timeframes on how this process is going to proceed, so we can meet the identified timelines that we had identified to the commission when we talked about this process earlier this year. So that's where we are with the process right now.
Remind us of what those timelines were.
We anticipate interviewing the existing commissioners September, October timeframe, new commissioners that come on board in November, December, advertising in December with hopeful hire by March, April of next year.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller.
What are we spending on this?
I believe the contract was less than $20,000, $25,000.
Does that cover the entire process all the way to the end?
Yes.
Okay. You know, I have we authorized this work to begin in January, and this is July. And over that time, we've had WCOT now as our interim since, I guess, the 1st of November. Isn't that about when you started this? And obviously, we're going to have a new commission in November, and I think that the thinking in January was that this would be a decision that was best left up to them. Since that time, I've actually had numerous opportunities to have people tell me, well, don't you think X decision, whatever it might be, ought to be left up to them? And I finally had begun to answer people and say, well, actually, I'm in the job right now, and this is the question before me, and I think that it's our responsibility to the public to do their jobs. Right now, we have a really static situation where it's not the same to have an interim as it is to have a city manager that's in place. And I think it lends a certain degree of instability to the operation. I think that the staff and Mr. Goat are doing an excellent job at treading water, but I feel like that's what we're doing. And in January, that didn't seem so long to see this to fruition. But after this period of time, thinking that this situation could conceivably go on for another year, I have developed a certain level of discomfort with that instability, and I hate to call it instability because I don't think that the situation is that the organization is unstable, but it's hard to advance under these circumstances. So I'd like to present to you tonight a concept where we consider giving Mr. Goat a 2-year contract and hire him permanently with a contract for 2 years. At that point, we'll have at least somebody in place that's permanent, other than these 2 gentlemen right here, and they'll be able to bring on the new commission, let them get their feet wet with the government and learn the scope and the depth of it. And at the end of 2 years, they can, well, 2 years from now, which is only going to be a little more than a year to them. And at that point, if they want to make a change, they'll be welcome to do that. And so I would offer that as a motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the item. Any discussion?
I want to make a comment. I'm not going to be here after November, whatever it is, 14th, 15th, 19th, depends on, I guess, when they get sworn in. Actually, 3 of us won't be here. 2 will. For me, the only way I could feel even comfortable discussing this would be if the 2 that are going to be here were firmly supportive of this, because I'm at 4 months of me hiring a city manager that is going to be the city manager for, hopefully it would be some time, is difficult for me unless there were, quite frankly, Commissioner Maddox and Commissioner Richardson were driving this. So, and I understand everything you're saying, but for me, I'm not, because usually it's not my nature to take a back seat. But in this case, I'm looking to follow the lead of the folks that are going to be the ones that will be running this city, managing this city, serving up here for this city, and that's not going to be me. So my position is, if there's a strong effort on the part of the people that are going to be here to move this forward, I'd certainly entertain it. But at this point, I'm not leading that charge.
Well, with respect to my colleagues, I won't be abdicating my decision on this to any of my colleagues. I think each of us here each have a vote, and I think we ought to express our will that way. We did establish a process similar to as we have for each of our appointed officials. Now, the last time we did this, we skipped the process. It was over my objection and over the objection of Commissioner Richardson. But we moved forward, in that direction, and now we are here today with an interim city manager. And by the way, my comments have nothing to do with Risco, the individual, and they didn't have anything to do with Rick Fernandez, the individual who, was his predecessor. But as I think about this and think about the process that we had just to fill the city attorney's position, where repeatedly this commission talked about process. We laid out one. We had an accelerated national search. We had a set of candidates that came back qualified. We interviewed those candidates. We selected from those candidates who we thought was the best. And then we got back here to the dais, and a healthy chunk of us said that we needed to go back out again, in spite of the fact that we had an eminently qualified candidate who made it through the process. Now, ultimately, I'm glad the commission came to the right decision, and we've got a city attorney seated. But the process, if this is a conversation around whether or not we should speed up the process, happy to consider that. Or even if this is a conversation of we don't believe that we are the five as we sit here that ought to be the ones making the decision, and that the next commission should make that decision, we could even debate that. I disagree. I'm prepared to go with whatever the process we've laid out suggests the timeline to be. And if that goes beyond my time here, I understand that, and the next commission will make whatever decision it needs to make. But I certainly don't understand why we would be at this place at this point in the process. And I have to say, I don't think we've been rudderless at all. I think we have, in fact, every week it seems we are celebrating the acceptance of yet another national award, another recognition. As far as the city employees are concerned, they are hitting on all cylinders. And I want to credit the leadership, Reese included as the interim city manager, but all the department heads and all of the employees who helped to make this government function, I think have been extraordinary. And the proof, as my grandmother used to say, is in the eating. Not in the pudding, but in the eating. And in the eating of it, meaning what the product is, it's been good. And I think it continues to be good. Our time, some of us, our time here is a little more truncated than others, but I think we have to deal with the decisions that are in front of us at the time that they are in front of us. We've got a process. It will be my vote to stick with it. And again, if that process carries on beyond the time that I'm here, then those who will be seated here will then make whatever decision needs to be made when it has to be made. But I certainly wouldn't be in favor of any decision that interrupts that at this time. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm okay with it because of your motion, because of the contract period. So it gives some stability, but it's not an automatic thing, and a new commission will come in and be able to evaluate all within their 4-year terms. So I'm okay with the motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Richardson, followed by Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, this is deja vu all over again, where we come to a meeting expecting one thing and we get something else with respect to our city manager and how we choose our city manager. If you all recall, when we were looking at replacing former city manager Anita Favors, we had the mayor and I had advocated for a national search, and yet, you know, the majority of us decided that we would do a manager in waiting. And here we are today, given that situation. And so I'm torn because I've told Reese, our interim city manager, that I do and am really impressed by the work that he has done. He's taken the leadership of this organization during a very turbulent time. And not only has he righted the ship, but as the mayor mentioned, he's moved the ship forward. I'm just amazed that you know, how many accolades and awards we have gotten over these last several months as a result of his leadership and the work that his leadership team and the staff and employees of the city of Tallahassee have done. But at the same time, you know, when we were looking to appoint a city attorney, we said that we wanted to look outside of the city of Tallahassee, that we didn't want someone from the inside. But yet, here we are again, and we're considering someone from the inside. So it's like we change the rules each time we come to a decision point. I think the process that we used to appoint the city auditor was one that was appropriate, that worked. I think we've got the most qualified candidate in that respect. I believe and I advocated it at the time, that we had the most qualified candidate that we probably could have found in this entire country in our city attorney. But yet, there were those who insisted that we go outside of the process to hire a city attorney. And that process was carried. So, but I am concerned about the fact that we have an interim city manager, and I'm not quite sure of how long that will take to replace that person. And if we bring someone from outside the city, possibly outside the state, that means we will have at least two new commissioners, a new mayor, and then shortly after that, a brand new city manager who does not know the city, may not know the state, and would have a huge learning curve. And so I'm really torn as to which way to go with this decision. I have all faith and confidence in our interim city manager that he could do the job. I would feel more comfortable if we did have an expedited process where we at least had an opportunity to formally evaluate the city manager, take applications, and do the interviews, and make the decision. We could make the decision between now and the 1st of November if we expedited the process. That would be my preference. But if we're going to do it today, if there are the votes to make that happen, then I would hope that we could do the same thing that we did with our former city manager, Rick Fernandez, when the mayor and I didn't agree, but when we knew that there were the votes there to make it happen, we made it a 5-0 vote because we didn't want that person coming in under a fractured commission. And so that's where I stand at this point. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Sure, no worries. Commissioners, are there other comments, thoughts?
Yes, well,
Commissioner Miller.
first of all, in the previous examples of hiring, we had experienced commissioners. And I know that all of us have felt what it's like when you get in office. You really kind of think you know what you're getting ready to do, and you have a lot of ideas, and you are very, very quickly brought up short and realize you've got a couple of years before you really do understand the organization that you've been elected to lead. I spent my first 3 months studying the electric utility just to figure out how we played a part of making decisions related to that. And I never said the word rudderless. I said we were treading water. And I think that we're doing an excellent job of it, which is why but there are a number of things that I know the world out there sees. One of those things is that we're trying to hire several people all through the organization, and we're having trouble doing that and I feel more trouble than we've ever had the whole time I've been here. And I feel that folks look at our government and say, well, I don't know who I'll be working for or with within 6 months, and so I'm not so sure I want to take the job. And in addition, so that's one thing. I think that there's unease throughout the community about that on those very same points, and that is really why I proposed the 2-year contract. If that started soon, it would mean that within a year and a half of the time the new commission is on board, they would have a year and a half to get to know the organization and also to get to know the management, and they would have a good opportunity in time. As it is right now through this timeline, within 3 months after they're elected, they are tasked with choosing a city manager, a brand new city manager, as Commissioner Richardson pointed out. And I have to say that I completely agree with Commissioner Ziffer that if the 2 that are remaining are not agreeable to this, then really there's no point, and we can just leave Reese or Mr. Goad to be interim for some endless period of time. But I feel that looking back in history, I remember that we had a new commission at a time in the past, and they made a hiring decision, and that hiring decision didn't work out for various reasons. But I think it's because it just takes a while to really understand exactly what the job of city manager entails. So, but I didn't indicate at any point that we were rudderless, but I do feel that it's hurt us with attracting people to our city, to our staff. That leaves people shorthanded and working harder. And like I said, that's why I chose the 2-year proposal.
I just wonder why we wouldn't then work to accelerate the process if the idea is to get someone in quicker. We're about to go on a summer break, of which a firm could very easily do what it did in the case of the city attorney, where they did a national search, brought back some names, shortlisted those names. We had an opportunity to interview them, and that was done, pretty expeditiously, in my opinion. If it is that we want to supplant our judgment for the next commission, which would be here by the will of the voters, by their decision that these are the people that they want to make that decision, or whatever decision that sits in front of them, I just think that it isn't our place to supplant our will for those individuals. Which is why I said I'm prepared to vote on everything that comes before us until I am out of office on this commission. And so if the question of city manager comes before us after a process, and I've been consistent on this, I said it for the last city manager, I said it for the city attorney, I said it for the treasurer clerk, without regard to personality or individual or the quality of their character, that we ought to have a process. And look, if Reese is as good as I know he is and he chooses to apply, and right now he has indicated he has no interest in applying, but if he should choose to apply, then we should be able to evaluate him, and like cream, it rises to the top. But to short-circuit it, and I'm not sure what the energy is because I haven't I don't know again what the strong push is here, but I think we have within our power to determine a process. If the intention is to move it quicker, because we believe that we've got a good, solid candidate here that would be able to pass vet, and this commission would decide, then so let it be. But I'm very, very uncomfortable with the idea of short-circuiting that at this time. Are there any, Commissioner
Sure.
Ziffer?
First of all, I'm not interested in passing the buck. I'm just thinking that if there are two people here that are going to serve with this next city manager, I sure like to know what they had to say. And Commissioner Richardson, I appreciate your thoughts. And Commissioner Maddox, I appreciate your thoughts. And it seems to me, so I'm going to make an alternative motion if I could. And the alternative motion is, we're going on break, and we have 2 meetings in September. Those are budget meetings. We have 1 meeting in October. We have 1 meeting in November. If Raul, if we could consider, I'll bring my motion for landing here, having before us so the decision can be made for the next city manager in the month of October, we speed up this process so that this collective body can make that decision, or at that time we may choose to defer further. But at least we expedite the process so that perhaps during the month of October, if we get an appropriate number of applicants to choose from, including, and I would encourage Mr. Goad to apply, because I think he has evolved and grown into an extremely strong and a good leader that this city could certainly take years of leadership from. But I'm not here to say that he's the heir apparent either, because I want people to apply if they're going to. So my motion is that we speed up the process so that during the month of October, this commission would have an opportunity to perhaps make that decision based upon the applicants.
Second.
There's a substitute motion and a second. I assume not friendly. Substitute.
Yeah,
Commissioner
just
Miller.
on that. Well, part of my push, as you described it, and I really don't think that's reasonable because I'm not going to be here. The bottom line is that I was looking to have some sense of stability by someone who's experienced and knows our government. And so to me, speeding up the process really doesn't, we can drop the whole thing right now. That's fine with me. Obviously, you're not interested in doing this. Obviously, you're not interested in doing this. And if there's no taste for it, then I withdraw my motion.
So we do have.
I can't be supportive of speeding up the process either, because then we hire somebody, whoever it is, that comes in here at the same day that the new commissioners get here, and I don't think that's a very good scenario for the city. My whole interest here was some stability from some experience over 2019, and to try to get us through that year with someone who knows our government, who knows the job, and if that's not if you all don't agree with that need, then fine.
Commissioner, just to respond on point, if we were to do nothing on the process, it would seem to me that the next commission, which would still be in a position to make decisions on this, would insert their judgment around whether or not they thought that they needed more time, whether they made a judgment that the current structure was one that they were prepared to continue with, or maybe offer something different. But I mean, what your motion does is it requires us to supplant our judgment for that new commission. And what I'm saying is I'm prepared to use my judgment where it has impact, which is now. And beyond that, it is the responsibility of the next commission. So the reason we're at this conversation is because there was an inclination to want to, again, leap into the next commission's decision. And
it was to provide some stability,
I understand,
not to leap anywhere ahead.
I understand your framing, but my framing is that if it carries over for 2 years, it does that. Again, I don't think this is an adversarial thing. I understand your position. We disagree. If the idea, however, is that if we're not going to go in that direction, then why would we disrupt the process at all? Unless there is a willingness for us to make that decision now, which again, if that's the timeline that we find ourselves on, happy to make the decision while I'm elected and I'm sitting here. But if the timeline stretches beyond that, then I trust the voters to hopefully elect people who have good judgment and sense about how this community ought to go. And we got a lot of stakeholders here who I'm sure would be willing to wade in to that. But if that decision ends up on their desk, that they make it is what I feel. So but we do have a motion.
I don't think it's seconded. Mine.
There was a
Yeah, I
second.
seconded it.
Okay.
Seconded it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and the reason I seconded the motion is because I am concerned about the issue of stability. And I think that we can make that decision. And if we make the decision in October that, you know, we don't have the person, and I would certainly, and I've told him before myself, if he didn't apply, I would recruit our interim city manager to apply, because I think he's earned that. And I have no qualms about that. But if we decide in October that we want to continue the process, then we make that decision and we put it on the new commission coming in, which would include Commissioner Maddox and myself. I have no problem with that at all. And so that's why I second the motion.
Well, I think we do have a blueprint for accelerated process because we've done it before.
Yes.
And again, ultimately, this commission in October would make a decision around whether this is whether it's the right thing to do or whether we leave it to the next one to do. There is a motion and a second on the floor. If there's no other discussion, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The motion
No. I'll vote no.
motion passes 3-2. Commissioners, we're now on items 11.07, which is the Airport Advisory Committee.
Move approval.
There's a
Second.
motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Commissioners, we're now on the area of policy formation and direction.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, this item 1301, deals with the body-worn cameras. You know, we've been at this for a while to evaluate this topic, and we've received a grant. TPD has piloted the evaluation of body-worn cameras. I think that's yielded a good bit of information and some experience. We are seeking your authorization to contract for the purchase of 410 cameras. That'll be one for every TPD officer we have. Lieutenant Tracy Clark is leading that charge, and she's going to give us a presentation tonight. She's joined by Deputy Chief Forsyth. I appreciate the Deputy Chief being here, and with that, I'd ask Lieutenant Clark to present the item.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and City Manager. The Tallahassee Police Department is committed to improving its accountability and philosophy of community-oriented policing efforts. We're encouraged that implementing a body-worn camera program aligns with these practices and is the next step in providing enhanced public safety. Implementing this body-worn camera program is a priority within the department's strategic plan in the 2016 to 2020 plan. With your continued support, the Tallahassee Police Department applied for and was subsequently granted the body-worn camera implementation grant in October of 2017. Once that was done, we started a review of body-worn cameras. We did our research. We began soliciting input from our local partners and within the community. We've undertaken a review of all of the different body-worn cameras, and the testing and evaluation has led us to the Axon Flex 2 body-worn camera. This camera is assigned right now to 6 different officers within the field. They're working in 4 different units. They're being field tested for their functionality, the enhancements that they provide to us. This particular camera has what is called a signal sidearm that is attached to the holster. Also has a conducted electrical weapon battery that is on the taser. This allows at any time that weapon is drawn, the camera automatically activates without any further input from the officer. Weekly reviews were conducted of the cameras. We evaluated the videos, the ease of use, the functionality, and the practicality of where our officers would use them. The Axon Flex 2 camera, coupled with the signal sidearm and the CEW battery for the taser, provide for a complete system with the ability for us to capture any possible response to resistance without any further input from our officers. Axon Enterprises also provides a vendor-hosted solution, basically cloud storage. That's the transition that is going in the industry at this particular moment. With this complete system, we have the ability to capture all of the information, store it to the cloud. We don't have to have an on-site server, which would be an additional cost. When we started this program, it was a 2-year grant that we were asking for and were granted. With Axon Flex, it would be a 5-year contract with renewable cameras, batteries, and everything else every 2.5 years. The additional benefits to this program would include providing evidence in our criminal investigations. It's increased accountability, transparency to the community, what our officers are doing. We feel that it would provide for better officer and citizen conduct when they're aware that they're being recorded. Allowing the department to more efficiently and effectively address allegations of misconduct. We've already had one with one of the test cases that we have. And we're attempting to fulfill an important part of our strategic plan by the community-oriented policing goals and the transparency of our agency. So we're asking for your support at this time, and I'm open for any questions.
Move approval.
Second.
So motion or second to approve, and these cameras automatically turn on and turn off? Is that how it
They
works?
will if you pull your firearm or if you pull your taser. Otherwise, it's just a double tap on the camera and it activates.
So otherwise, the officers would initiate it. They would be responsible
Correct.
for initiating it, and it would self-initiate on a taser or
If you pull the firearm out of the holster, yes, sir.
Got it. Commissioner Miller.
Could you share with everyone the experience you had with the 6, I think, that you deployed as a pilot?
Yes, so we assigned one to, there's 3 in patrol each shift, day, afternoon, and midnight. We have one assigned to our violent crimes response team, one to our cops officer who rides a bicycle, and then one to our traffic unit. The videos are phenomenal. They are very clear. They show what is going on. The Axon Flex 2 is either going to be worn on the collar or on the shoulder. We had a use of force complaint against one of the officers wearing it. A quick review by IA totally realized it was a falsified complaint, and it went away.
Good. Well, I hope that's the way. I think everyone has better behavior on all sides, all of us.
Yes.
With our encounters with law enforcement, and so I'm pleased to see that we're here finally. Started this in 2014, our discussions began, so very definitely in support.
Commissioner Richardson.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that I am ecstatic that we're providing our law enforcement officers and our law enforcement community the latest in technology.
Yes, sir.
That you need not only to protect the citizens, but also to protect those who protect us. And that's been one of our top priorities, if not the top priority, during the time that I've served on the commission. And so I want to commend you all for moving forward with that. And certainly we can be an example for other municipalities throughout the state in how we employ that new technology.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. There's a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Deputy Chief, anything?
Yes, sir. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioners, we're now on to item 13.02.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, this item involves the construction of a new sidewalk on Glenview Drive that will run from Meridian to Thomasville Roads. As you know, you've directed us to work with our partners to find ways to leverage funds to where we can accelerate our infrastructure, to make sure we invest in our infrastructure and we improve overall our infrastructure. That's what this involves. The design of the project is almost complete, and construction should begin later this year. This item requests your authorization to enter into a local agency program agreement with DOT, whereby as the city constructs the sidewalk, pays for it, DOT will subsequently reimburse us. Steve Schaefer, our city engineer, is here to answer any questions you might have on this item.
Commissioner Maddox.
Madam Attorney, I have a family member that has a house off Glenview Drive. Is that in any way a conflict?
No, it is not.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move acceptance.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for acceptance. All in favor, let me know
I
by
have a
saying.
question.
Yes, I'm sorry,
When
Commissioner
can we
Miller.
expect this to start?
It's the fall of this year. We anticipate design to be complete and we'll begin construction. So I think what I recall is October is the best month we have. Steve, can you help me on that one?
Sure. We expect to bid the project in September, and it'd probably take a month or 6 weeks to get a contract in place. So October, November, we'd likely start on construction.
How are you on right-of-way?
Right-of-way is acquired. We're
Great.
good to go there.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled. This is on my list of 3 sidewalks I came in office with, and I'm glad to see at least you might break ground before I leave.
Right, thank you. No other comments? There's a motion and a second. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. We're now on to item 13.03.
The special events policy was revised in 2015. The policy requires an application process for events to receive co-sponsorship status, whereby we provide certain in-kind services. With that, a special events committee was created to review applications and make recommendations to you. This particular item presents the committee's recommendations for the events to be co-sponsored in fiscal years 19 and 20. The committee recommended 12 events, including 3 not previously co-sponsored events: the FAMU Harambe Festival, the Kids Fest, and the New Year's Eve fireworks. They were not previously co-sponsored. It did not include the Downtown Get Down. You heard about that earlier this evening, which has historically been funded and supported by the city in terms of in-kind services, police in particular. The committee was charged with working within the FY18 or our fiscal year 18 budget spending estimates, which was about $175,000, and there was a cutoff point based on that, and the Downtown Get Down did not meet that cutoff point, and that's the nature of that recommendation. Ashley Edwards is our Director of Parks and Recreation. She's been intimately involved in this process, and she's here to answer any questions you might have on this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Ziffer, followed by Commissioner Richardson.
I will move acceptance of staff's recommendation with an addition of, I'm going to put a limit of $25,000 for this coming year to support the Downtown Get Down. I think the argument is sound. While there are other opportunities in the city, it's still very popular. There are some restrictions clearly because of what's happening with the DoubleTree, that it's going to be a little downsized, but I think it's important to our community to still have that. So I would move staff's recommendation with an addition of no more than $25,000 of in-kind for the Downtown Get Down.
Mr. Mayor, I would second that, under the condition that we still have a balanced budget, Mr. Manager, if we're able to do that.
There is Commissioner Miller.
I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention the fact that this is actually not one event. This is 7 different events.
Right.
And so that breaks down to about $3,500 each. And, you know, we all really do want to support local businesses, and we all recognize the seasonality of the businesses downtown, and it's very difficult to be in business for 12 months when you've got the summer, when the entire world leaves town, including half of us on vacation, and all the students and all the legislative folks, and then, you know, to try to only depend on the 2 months when the legislature's here really for solid business is just not enough. So at least for the coming year, certainly I'd like to see us be supportive of the get-downs. And keep in mind, that's 7 events, not just one.
Right. Commissioner Richardson.
Yeah, just to add to that, you know, this is consistent with the 18-hour downtown that we've talked about so consistently over the years. So,
great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, there is a motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. We're now on to item 13.04.
Item 13.04 recommends your approval of the Star Metro 3-year 2018 through 2020 Title VI policy. The Federal Transit Administration, or FTA, and the Florida Department of Transportation require that this policy be updated every 3 years. That's what we're bringing to you tonight. Angela Baldwin, our Star Metro Director, is here to answer any questions you may have on this
move
item.
approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes 4-0. Item 13.06.
Move approval of Florida A&M Master Plan Comment Letter.
Second.
Second.
Or 05, I apologize. Thank you. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no.
Mr. Mayor, may I recognize, we've got several representatives from FAMU in the audience. I'd love to recognize them while they're here. I appreciate their attendance. Takedra Nelson, Cheryl Williams, and Jerome Swain are here. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your partnership.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Item 13.06.
Item 13.0.
Second.
It's an enthusiastic motion to approve by Commissioner Miller and second by Commissioner Maddox. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. Item 13.07.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, over the last 6 months, we've really taken the effort to underscore the importance of ethics and, most importantly, training. And tonight, I just wanted to take a quick opportunity to update you on our recent events and give you a snapshot of our progress. I'll highlight some of the requirements that we put in place for our new employees. Within 5 days of employment, we now require that they have some kind of ethics training or engagement. That's a very aggressive timeline, as you can imagine, but we're doing that. The departments are carrying that out, and I appreciate their support doing that. We still are doing the new employee orientation. The ethics officer is engaging employees at that point. That's typically within 2 weeks of being hired, as well as requiring employees within 90 days to take an online ethics course. All of this is toward the end of underscoring the importance of good sound judgment in ethics. Sometimes decisions can be tough, and I think there needs to be a tough top-of-mind awareness of the issue. We've also put in place a requirement that all city employees, to be eligible for an annual merit raise, complete ethics training. And that's been in place for about 2 months now. And the chart that you have on the screen shows that 96% of the employees have already completed that training. That training has to be completed. This will be an ongoing requirement. It'll have to be completed by September 30th of every year. So you can see we're way ahead of schedule on the progress. I wanted to share that with you tonight before your summer break. I want to share appreciation for all the departments. This is not easily done for those departments that typically have individuals with access to computers. This is easier to do because individuals can complete the training at their desk. For those departments that have field employees that have less access to computers and generally spend their day in the field, it's much harder. But nonetheless, the departments have taken on the challenge. I know last Saturday, our Parks and Recreation Department held an ethics training. They've tackled this, and I'd like to express my appreciation for them doing that. And I just wanted to give you that update tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I believe everyone in the commission office and staff have also completed theirs. Yes. Commissioners, we're now on to item 13.08.
Mayor, Commissioner, the current waste and recycling.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mr. Manager. I filed a conflict of interest form on this earlier in the week and let the city attorney know because I had previously represented this company. In an abundance of caution, I filed a conflict of interest to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest form. I will be leaving the dais in the room during the vote.
Thank you, Commissioner.
The current waste and recycling collection contract expires September 30th of this year. Earlier this year, an RFP was released, and we received 4 proposals. There was an evaluation committee that committee met. And they evaluated qualitative and quantitative elements of the RFP. The highest-ranked proposer was Waste Pro of Florida, and the second-ranked proposer was FCC, which, as you know, filed a protest of the RFP. The city attorney conducted a hearing on June 28th and denied FCC's protest and recommended that the city proceed with the recommended rankings. Tonight, we're recommending your approval of the evaluation committee's rankings, which is for Waste Pro to provide that service. This particular contract would provide for new equipment. I share that because that's a big obstacle in that business. As you operate equipment for some time, you can get leaks and things of that nature. They impact our streets. In this case, we would get new CNG, compressed natural gas fuel, solid waste trucks as part of this.
Great. Commissioners, is there a motion? Commissioner Miller.
Would you run that by again? No, are we buying trucks for the city or trucks for Waste Pro?
Waste Pro would buy the trucks. They will be CNG and be refueled with CNG. They're not our trucks, but they're required to have new trucks for the completion of this contract.
Are we paying for the trucks?
Essentially, we'll pay for the trucks by way of the contract price. It would be embedded in their price, so that had to be part of that proposal.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and the radio frequency identification, again, are we paying for equipment that's going on their trucks? How does that benefit?
That equipment will be in two parts, and we would essentially fund it by way of the contract, but it'll be on the barrels themselves and on the trucks, and that's going to help us with greater intelligence about collection rates, set-out rates, and help us be far more strategic than we are today about waste collection, in particular recycling. As we try to push recycling and learn the habits of our community and increase the volume of recycling, that technology will help. That's, that coordination between the truck and the barrel, and that'll be part of the contract.
Well, the last thing that I wanted to ask you, too, I don't know what you all are doing differently when you're negotiating, but, I've gotten a couple of comments from county residents to say, oh, boo, 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 hiss, and, about their service, and we get excellent service. The problems they've described to me, I've never had a complaint of that type from a city resident, so you're doing something well as far as the negotiating with these folks. They seem to be very clean. They pick up their trash, and some of the complaints that these other county folks have had, I don't understand, because that's another government. I can only handle one at a time, and but it's working out well, I think. Thank you.
Commissioner, I'd like to comment on that. Thanks for raising that point. Reginald Alfani's here tonight. He's our department director over that. He put in place many years ago a weekly meeting with the contractor to address any issues that we have, because that's the collection of solid waste is clearly something we do for all of our citizens. It touches every home every week, and as we have issues, they've developed a process to deal with them quickly, and I think you see the result of that, and we do in fact have a different service in the city than would be provided in the unincorporated part of the county.
I move approval.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes 4-0. Commissioner Maddox abstaining. Commissioners, we're now at the section of the meeting to hear from speakers on unagended items. Are there any speakers?
Mayor, we do have a number of speakers tonight. I'll let speakers know that you'll each have 3 minutes for your remarks. You'll speak from the microphone in the center of the room. I'll give you a heads up as you approach the end of your 3 minutes. There is a light, but it's blocked from your view, so I'll give you the heads up there. Mayor, we have about a dozen or 13 speakers, most of which are on the Northwest Park, but I'll let each of them tell you what they're here to talk about. The first is Alex Dew, and then David McNeil. If each speaker will give a name and address to start their remarks, we would appreciate it.
Thank you. My name is Alex Dew, and I live at 2058 Canewood Court. I'm here to talk about the proposed development at Northwest Park. So first of all, Northwest Park is currently a public conservation land according to the Florida Natural Areas Inventory. I know you've probably all seen the plans for its development. You did approve in April the funding for that and another park in the southeast. I think that having a public conservation land is a perfect opportunity to develop a nature park. As a public conservation land, that shows that it has great value for such a thing. This is currently what the park looks like. It's fully forested except for a 1.2 acre field. In the middle, it has 2 mounds that are nice features. They are from the extension of the Mission Road project, and it has a retention pond. Beside is the proposal that I know is being revamped, but in meetings that I've had, it's still, you see there's a baseball field, a multi-use field, and different ball courts, and then in the southeast, different lanes cut for disc golf. All of the things on here, I've been told, are still in the plans. We've been told that Northwest Park will offer us something new that we don't already have in the area. It does border the city-county border. Just on the next corner to the west, we have Fred George Park with a baseball field and a multi-use field. And then just on the next block north, we have Canopy Oaks Park, which is also a county park, that has 2 Little League baseball fields and a multi-use field. This area is home to many animals. You can see deer, foxes, all kinds of reptiles. It's an amazing feeling to be walking out at dusk and see the silhouette of a fox looking down at you as you walk out. That's something I want everyone in our community to be able to experience. The community supports having a nature park. There's been an online petition that has been up for about 2 weeks. It got 230 signatures in its first week, and it now has 460. I'd like for us to create a unique park. This is a great opportunity to do so. This is the view from the top of one of the mounds. You can see in the distance that light. That is the next baseball field on the next corner. This is a great opportunity to have unique things like an observation platform here. Or if you look in this that I drew up, we could extend the trail network to 3 miles. And that black box at the top, if you were to just fence that off, we would have Florida's largest dog park, something to really put us on the map. You could make the fence low enough for wildlife to get over, but high enough to where dogs could not get over. So we've been told in a letter that the city sent out that once the final site plan is developed, the community will have opportunity for feedback. But I'd really like to ask that the community has an opportunity to be involved in the planning process, because I think we have something special here, and we could really develop it in a way that could be in balance with the county.
Excuse me, you're at 3 minutes.
And make something special. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Thank you.
Next is David McNeil. He'll be followed by Brittany Watkins.
Hi, I'm David McNeil. I live at 1317 Branch Street. And the city really does have a unique opportunity with this little square of land. It's undisturbed, and we already have so many parks around the city that fit this model of baseball field, multi-use. And if we went back a few slides, or well, anyway, if you remember that slide that had that view of that hill, I was on Google Earth today, and I figured out that if you built an observation platform from the top of that hill over one of the ponds, it would be a 600-foot zip line going down 200 vertical feet. Those kinds of things just don't exist anywhere else in Tallahassee. That's just something that you could, that if you used your imagination, it's not just another soccer field. And that's something that the city has to work with in this park. And we've also been told that there was a natural features inventory done, and that's basically a tree count. And that's not a true natural features inventory. We're talking about taking into account the water bodies, all the flora, all the fauna that exists there, the imperiled species, the exotic species that exist in the understory. Already the city has gone through in the understory and brush hogged large swaths with, large enough to drive an ATV or a small car through. And this includes 25-year-old muscadine vines, all kinds of foraging and habitat, and even injured like mature trees, as you can see in these photos. So in terms of preserving habitat, the city is already demonstrating that that's not a priority. And this goes back to what the previous speaker talked about. By including the community in the planning, waiting for a final plan is obviously not happening at this point. I'm just requesting that the community or that the city takes a step back and just pauses on this so that the community has a chance to have some input before a final plan gets reached, because it looks like this final plan
You're very near 3 minutes.
is already, been arrived at. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Brittany Watkins, and then Ann Rowe.
Hello, my name is Brittany Watkins. My address is 2058 Canewood Court, and I just want to share some of the comments that residents in the area have said on the change.org petition. I signed because nature has shown to help people mentally and emotionally, and because we need to protect our pockets of nature within our city. This is George Jimenez. Jen Eaglefield said, "You all think community development is beneficial, but it just leaves a bad taste in the mouths of the community members." Sarah Bardolph said that the city should look at renovating existing sports recreation areas before clearing habitat to build new ones. Is there truly a need for a new rec complex in the area? Why not build courts on a blighted surface or a lot to expand amenities at Fred George Park? Kathy Myers said we need to protect as many trees and green spaces as we have in Tallahassee. Mathen Kaushi said keep as many trees as possible. There are facilities for baseball and other such activities that can be expanded. Sharon Rembaum said that the area is very close to an already existing sports complex, and a little down the road is a nice green space for hiking, jogging, and etc. I think that the city can better use their funds somewhere else in the city rather that needs improvement. Leave the space alone. Gina Palmisano said this is a wonderful park as it is. I would much rather take my son there to explore nature and local wildlife than see new ball fields built. Tara Sweeney said I moved to this area to enjoy wildlife and fresh air. It is one of the few things keeping me from moving out of town. Please do not destroy this beautiful park. Terry Albrecht Schmidt said the ecology of this park is not found anywhere else near here. Keep the integrity of the park and the wonderland. Michelle Reich said enough is enough. Jane Kirk said this is already a beautiful natural area and home to many wildlife. There are numerous parks in Tallahassee that this money could be spent on for renovations instead. Lenora Proctor said this park is beautiful and natural. If you want to make it more user-friendly, put in walking trails for humans and pets. Otherwise, please let it be. Stacy Bryant said, I enjoyed the natural canopy in Tallahassee. We need to preserve this. Heather Brown said, stop destroying what people come to Tallahassee for. Christy Crowdy said they just built a park at Fred George and Capitol Circle not too long ago. There is no more need for more ball fields. Leave the forest a forest. Alexandria Krell said, I have lived in Tally my entire life, and the one thing I've always enjoyed was the natural canopy here. I would also like to be able to walk my dog through these areas. It is more relaxing than walking. Walking under a canopy is a lot cooler temperature-wise as well. Vicki Larson said the conservation of this area is a significant request for the community and the city of Tallahassee. John Kaufman said Florida has been clear-cutting all of Florida for years. How about trying to preserve the native species of Florida instead of wiping them out? Being someone that lives across the street from this park, I walk there on a regular basis. I've seen the wildlife. I think it would be much more beneficial if we took a step back, as was expressed previously, and gave the community a chance to have a say in what we do with this area, especially considering that it's a public conservation land. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, before we go to the next speaker, if I could just briefly on this subject. We purchased a Northwest Park many, many years ago because of a tremendous outcry from folks that wanted active recreation. At the time, the closest active recreation to them was Forest Meadows, but there was no way to get across Lake Jackson. It was measured by how close you were to the next active recreation, and Orchard Pond, the new Orchard Pond Road didn't exist. There was no way to go from the northeast or central area to the northwest without going down Monroe Street and going on one side of Lake Jackson. The reason that it was not developed was because back then, the county used to contribute to the city for unincorporated residents to use active parks and recreation. Then the county decided to do their own parks and recreation program. So we did not move forward with the development of the Northwest Park because of that, and the county moved forward with one not too far away, the one that you were referencing. Because so many things have changed between then and now, I look forward in this process. I'm going to have a lot of questions as to the need for active recreation and as to the scope of active recreation. So,
Thank you.
for coming.
City Manager?
Mr. Mayor, just on point on this, we've talked a great deal about it. Our Parks and Recreation Director is here tonight, and there is an engagement process. We're receiving comments online. Based on the feedback we're getting, though, we are planning, and I believe it's represented online today, a listening session before the final development of the site plan so we can get this kind of feedback before we get too far down the path. That will happen in August. I think the date is to be determined. But just for the benefit of the audience and those that have shared their comments, that's the plan now. So we wanted to add an extra step of that personal contact, that personal engagement, so we can take all that feedback into account.
Great. Next speaker, Ann Rowe.
Hi, good afternoon, commissioners and mayors and Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate you allowing me this time. I am here. My name is Ann Rowe. I live at 1213 Victory Garden Drive here in Tallahassee. I've been a Tallahassee resident for nearly 27 years. I originally hail from the state of Maine, the great state of Maine. I am a survivor of violent crime, rape and sexual assault with a firearm, which happened on September 11th, 2015. My attacker, Jermichael Lindsay, who is a career criminal, was not convicted in a court of law. He was allowed to plea out to 1 count of sexual assault and battery with a firearm. I am here today to ask the Commission's support for Marcy's Law for Florida. This will be Amendment 6 on the ballot during the November election. Amendment 6 will change the state constitution to give victims of crime and their families equal rights that are already afforded to the accused and convicted. I was lucky. I was somewhat lucky, I should say. Because of my background as a crisis communications professional and a public information officer by trade, I asked questions early on when I was in the emergency room, the day after, the day after, the day after, the weeks after, the months after. I'm almost 3 years into the attack. In my case, when I wasn't given information, I made calls until I was provided the answers that I sought. I wasn't, however, consulted or included on how my legal team, they did a great job, but, not everything was accomplished. I was not allowed to face my attacker while reading my victim statement at his plea hearing. I was just not approached on a lot of different things in my case. I want and believe every man and woman who has survived violent crime should have the equal rights afforded to those accused of or convicted of a crime. I am asking you today to please support Marcy's Law. Again, it is on the ballot in November, Amendment 6, and I do have Marcy's Law's representatives here today to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, Ann.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Miller, followed by Commissioner Ziffer.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
This is an issue that I think is critically important. I'm not familiar right off the bat today with what's on the ballot. The way they combined everything and put some negative thing with every positive thing they did. But I am very interested in being able to provide support and to express that support to the public for Marcy's Law in the form of Amendment 6. And previously, I'd ask if we could discuss how we can do that. How do we do that? At this moment in time, we are not able to say, at least I don't feel I would be able to say yes, because with all the trying to get ready for the break and all these meetings we've been having, I haven't had a chance to actually look up what is on with this one. And we will, at some point, I hope, talk about that and talk about which amendments and which items in each amendment we feel strongly about. So is that something that I can expect us to do in September?
What I was going to suggest, to expand upon that,
Thank you.
First of all, I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
And asking us to participate in this. I went ahead and looked at Amendment 6, and while I'm in total agreement of the advancement of the age of retiring judges from 70 to 75, the third part of it doesn't terribly bother me either, which doesn't allow a judge to defer to administrative decision-making. So I'm okay with supporting Amendment 6. If I can suggest, because some of us may have some other items, amendments we may be supportive of or opposed. For example, Amendment 2 isn't very helpful for cities and counties around the state of Florida. I would imagine we're going to want to come out against that. If we could perhaps each one of us, because we have some time here, send our comments to the city attorney, and if we could put an agenda item on our first meeting in September to discuss amendments that we may be willing to be supportive of or oppose, of which for me this would be one that we support. But that would require, obviously, a discussion and perhaps an individual vote on each. I'm not sure we have to go through all of them, but this one in particular and Amendment 2, and there may be others that we could each suggest to the city attorney we have a discussion about. So that would be my motion.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. I want to add my voice of appreciation for you coming as well and sharing your own personal testimony. Thank you. I actually think maybe it would also, if this is acceptable, for the staff to identify those amendments that have particular impact on municipal government.
Absolutely.
Because I think we ought to be using the apparatus of the television station to inform voters, particularly those that have impact on local government and our community, what these amendments are, what they entail. They are nuanced. I'm particularly concerned about those amendments that are coupled with really bad poison pills. Yes. Because there are elements of some of these that are good, strong pieces of law that ought to be enshrined in the Constitution, and then there are others that are really destructive to enshrining in the Constitution. And I think we really ought to take a fair look across the board at at all of those. So, Commissioners, there's a motion. Commissioner,
and I would like to suggest that you meet with the editorial board of the newspaper also.
And Carl Edders from the Democrat has covered my story, so definitely am inviting the Democrat and others to, keep going with us as we get to November.
Commissioner
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to add my support and thank you for coming. It takes a lot of courage to get up in the public and speak about a very personal matter that way, and so we applaud you for that and for the advocacy and leadership that you're taking in this regard, and you can certainly count on my support.
Thank you.
Thank
There
you.
are others who are unable to speak, and it's my goal to be able to speak on their behalf as well.
Great. Thank you very much. Commissioners, there is a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Samantha Yuan, and then A.C. Stinson. And I believe we're back on the Northwest Park.
That was a different slide. Oh, that's not the same one. Oh, it's different. It's some PowerPoint. Well, I'm just going to start. Thank you for this opportunity to speak in this meeting. I just wanted to start out to give you a little bit of personal experience. As growing up, I really didn't really get a lot of opportunities to experience nature. I remember my first time is during school in elementary. We had to travel half a day to really go see the forest, to see what everything that school, teachers talk about. So that was a really eye-opening experience for me, and I kind of really, I think the kids will really get a lot out of it seeing it firsthand better than in the classrooms. The point is that in today's society, we're really fast-paced and really highly involved in technology. We really don't have a lot of opportunities to experience outdoors. And and then just a little quick refresher what natures can do for us. Natures can reduce stress, anxiety, can replenish your attention and motivation, increase creativity and productivity, improve your mood and your mental stage, and increase your social interactions. And the reason I'm saying is that I'm here for the Northwest Park, and I think it's really important that that point of increasing social interaction is really important for a nature park, because that is something that you won't be able to get in the classroom by having like school field trips or organization doing some sort of field trip to the forest. They get to experience what science and nature is all about. They get to see the biodiversity, the ecosystem, and really get to see the science next door that's outside of their regular classroom. They will, many other people will get to experience wildlife viewing, and then they also get to do a lot of, can have like nature walks or tour nature walks to really kind of see what the area can really offer. And I think that it will be a really great mental escape for a lot of people, including us today, to enjoy from our urban lifestyle. So I'm sorry my presentation is not available right now for some reason, but I just want to say I'm proud to have the land there we have in the Northwest, and I think it's like they're saying, the previous speaker is saying, it's a really unique area, and I think we should embrace that diversity here in the city of Tallahassee. We have a lot of diverse people here, and we should have a diverse program that including diverse different plans of the park. And I don't understand why people always think that a well-developed, well-manicured park is a better park, which is simply not true, because we have a lot of diverse people enjoy different things, and we should offer that diversity within our park as well. So I'm asking the city to really consider protecting this area, because this is an ecological treasure that we have here and an environmental sensitive land. And I really think that we should consider preserving, using this opportunity to what they have offered, instead of kind of making it into a well-manicured recreational park like many
Excuse me,
that's
you're at 3
nearby.
minutes.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Next is A.C. Stinson, and then Barry Monroe.
Hi, my name is A.C. Stinson. I was here at the last meeting. My address is 145 Santa Anita Boulevard, Havana, Florida, and I represent the owners of 101 and 103 Cactus Drive. I do have a I think that's it. Sorry. Apparently I need glasses. I can't see that. But what I want to do is bring some pictures of what we deal with daily. I came last month and explained the problem we're having with homeless at our property and the inability for us to rent units because we have a large number of people outside of our gates. Since that time, I've talked with Monique Ellsworth with the Kearney Center, and she's been a great resource. She's been very helpful. She talks to us anytime we call, anytime we leave a message, she gets right back to us. I've had 2 emails from Ms. Barber here at the city, but frankly, for us as someone trying to manage a property and for the owner trying to make a profit, we're not able to. When we have to explain to everybody who comes to this property why there are 20 people standing outside the gate. Our gate was broken over the weekend because someone put their backpack over the fence. The gate opened, it jammed the gate. Now our gate's open. The guy won't be there for another week to fix it, and we have people walking all around the property at this point. We had 3 prospective buyers come look at the property. Each one of them came up to me and said, so why are there so many homeless outside the gate? Why can't you stop that? On July 8th, when I came back from vacation for a week and a half, that's why no one heard from me for a week and a half, I had 26 people outside the gate on Sunday when I showed up. I can't police it. I can't control it. And quite frankly, we feel like the city has done nothing since that time because we haven't heard of anything that's being done. Again, the Kearney Center has been responsive, but right now we're going into a fall season where we should be fully leased like we have been the past several years. I have 7 vacant units. We only have 24 units. It doesn't make sense as to why this keeps happening. And quite frankly, we need help from the city. It's a city problem. And if y'all would like to come and explain to people and tenants why there's so many people standing outside, I would love for you to. I'm sure if you had this problem in your neighborhood, just like if I had a problem in my neighborhood, I would be calling the city, I would be calling the police, but every time I do, what I'm told is, if you see a crime being committed, then call the police. The crime is, you're forcing us to become low-income housing, you're forcing us not to be able to rent units, that's the crime. And quite frankly, I know I come off as angry and frustrated, but quite frankly, we're angry and frustrated at this point because we need help, and we don't know what you're doing, but we feel like we're not getting it. That's it.
Thank you for that. There was some update, I think, that the city attorney might be able to provide.
Well, one of the areas we were looking at in terms of trying to see what the city had the authority to do was to actually set up a mechanism to police the right-of-way to some extent, which is what really the property the city can control. And it's not clear to me from the pictures if they're on your property or if it's the city right-of-way. If the city right-of-way...
They're sitting on ours. When the police come, they move 3 feet out to the telephone pole, and then they sit on yours. When the police drive away, they move back to the fence and lay against the fence again because it's more comfortable.
Right. Well, obviously, your property, you can control your property, but the city can put up signs in the right-of-way, and I think that's one of the things that staff has been exploring, basically no loitering signs. The state attorney has told us that they will recognize a violation of the loitering statute, and I think that it's currently being explored by management, having those signs placed up in the right-of-way.
Enforce.
Okay. Hopefully signs will work.
I'd like a progress report back on this after the break so we can make sure that that's working. Nobody should, that's a community problem that is adversely affecting one business owner, and we have a responsibility to correct it. So I'd like to have that come back to us.
Commissioner Miller.
I'd like to have a progress report before that. By the time we come back, there's going to be school will have started, and all of the rental opportunity that goes on during the summer will be gone. There has to be something that we can do to remedy the situation. I mean, we've set up I would say, one of the best homeless shelters and operations in the state of Florida, and that we are faced with what you are faced with. I just don't frankly understand it. So whatever you guys can do, you can send us a written report within a week or two about exactly, and I think Cassandra's our city attorney has already sent us one, but management, I'd appreciate it if you all would keep us very, very apprised as to what's happening here, because they're really, I don't think that the laws are intended to end up with the result that business owners are basically having to shutter their property.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, one other thought, and this is something I think we'll probably have to, consider in a larger context, but some cities have gone toward legal campsites in areas that are in close proximity to where large homeless populations, tend to congregate. Instead of, in public right-of-way and on people's private properties, that you basically set up some version of amenity, and amenity is probably not the right word because it's hardly that, but it's shaded, treed, and doesn't present as much of a public nuisance while we try to figure out the homeless issue writ large. But, these signs, to be honest with ourselves, just means that law enforcement will come and enforce no loitering and no move on and no reposition. And then somebody else calls, and then law enforcement responds and again tries to enforce no loitering, and to the extent that there is an arrest and an incarceration, it won't be long. Again, adds to that problem, and it's a much more expensive end of the problem. So, I think we ought to really get creative about whether or not, in looking at maybe what some other cities have done around sort of humane legal sites that are sort of available during the day, that maybe that's something we ought to think through. I don't know the total answer, but it seems like this is inviting another problem. The whole idea of signage enforcement in public right-of-way, certainly I don't think we'll address what we're dealing with here.
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say, I'm in that area a lot, and I think they've already got some of those little settlements set up in the woods already. I see some of them coming out I mean, I don't know what they're doing, but I think they do have that kind of set up informally already.
Some of them are made, I think what I'm suggesting is that there are actually more formal ones that are shaded and actually are observed. So there's some level of observation that happens to ensure that what you're not having is a major criminal element, but it is a bit of a mediation of what is otherwise a nuisance.
Right.
There, Mr. Mayor, and I think I have all of the facts correct on this, but across the street, there's actually, from the Carney Center, there's a parcel of land that I think Rick Carney bought. It's in a flood zone, and the idea was, and there are a lot of homeless that are living in there, and the idea he had, which we had to take some issues with because of the stormwater issues and the floodplain issues, was to clean it up and to clean it out and then open it up on some level so that it provides some degree of protection, as you talked about, but also it's open. Because right now what we have is a dangerous situation where we have a lot of people that I think are putting themselves in harm's way because of what it is. So, yes, there are different ways to do this. I think we do need to be creative. That particular site, there may be some opportunities for us to get creative, but there are, whatever it is, I think we need to get a little more aggressive with the Carney Center and have them help us with this. There are a lot of folks that spend evenings there and then they're, out. And it's a terrible situation for the owner of that property. But on the other hand, if there's no harm, I don't want people to get arrested for loitering because that's going to cost us a lot more and it's not going to help them at all.
For sure.
So, we need to get creative, but that piece of land, I think, does have some possibilities.
Great. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt the public speaking. Yes, sir.
My name is Barry Monroe, and I live at 1248 Halifax Court. I've been a resident of the city of Tallahassee for approximately 30 years, and I've seen some changes in Tallahassee. One of the reasons why I moved and stayed in Tallahassee is because I love the trees. I love the conservation and small town feel. The issue at play with Northwest Park is not new to Tallahassee. I remember there was a lot of dispute during the construction and planning of the Blairstone Road. My home is just right near Blairstone Road. But I understood just before I moved there, if the citizens had not engaged in a very, very positive communication with the city government at that time, that Blairstone Road would have been running right through my neighborhood and approximately in my living room. The Northwest Park issue, I believe, gives the city a chance to conserve what nature there is that exists there. And with the park that is closest to my home is the Governor's Park. It's a passive park. It's a wonderful park, just like the one that is cited for the Northwest Park. There are beautiful trails to walk. There are beautiful things to see. You see owls. You see other aspects of our habitat that you don't normally see in larger, more urban parts of the city. People have a choice and they move with their feet. That park, from what I understand, has several different species. When I lived on the northwest part of town, which was approximately across the street from Astoria Elementary School, there were wonderful opportunities to see nature in that area, and then you saw slowly everything started degrading towards more development. And that's what I see creeping throughout Tallahassee. But I will tell you this, with the promise that I've heard that the city's going to work with the residents in that process, I think the process is, right now, the neighbors there feel like they've been ignored, and what they think has not taken much plan in the survey. So from what I saw in the Tallahassee Democrat, with the woman from the Parks and Recreations program speaking that it was going along, I'm hearing from neighbors from that part of the city that that's not the case, that they're not being engaged in that process. I remember several issues that affect neighborhoods that you had a liaison at one point with the city, so that they would actually hear from citizens before you move into any major changes or developments within their neighborhoods.
You have just a few more seconds.
I will reserve the balance of my time for those who've spoken on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Darwin Gamble, then Stephen Knapp.
I'm Darwin Gamble, also live at 1248 Halifax Court. Back in 2005, I was one of about 20 people who came in here to oppose the sale of Northwest Park to developers. The chamber was packed that night, and I said at the time that I thought one of the reasons the issue got to be such a controversy is because there was nobody on the city commission from Northwest Tallahassee. The people in that part of the city did not have a champion on the commission to carry their cause. Now, you all know what happened that night. The commission caved in and the park wasn't sold. And now it's taken 13 years to even get development started. Now, I appreciate Commissioner Maddox's remarks. Maybe another reason it's taken 13 years is lack of representation on the commission. I have felt for many years that Tallahassee is just too big to be governed by 5 people, any 5 people, elected at large who hire a city manager. I think we need to amend the city charter, bring in a mayor-council form of government with a council or a commission elected from single-member districts. That, I believe, will give everybody in the city better representation. But until that happens, and I made this recommendation to the 2009 Charter Review Committee, and they gave me a very cold reception, so it didn't get on the ballot. But until that happens, please give the people who want Northwest Park to be a nature park some representation. They're here tonight because they're frustrated. They think city staff is charging ahead with this project without receiving all public comment. So what they need is some representation, however long you're going to be up there. They need some representation on this issue, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Stephen Knapp, and then Laura Bevan.
Stefan Knapp from 2061 Greenwood Drive. I just came to voice my opposition to the Northwest Park development as it is. I would like to see it developed as a nature park simply because of the climate impact. Now, if we look at the topsoil erosion and degradation, if we look at the sunlight diffusion of the trees themselves, it leads to a very large impact on the actual surrounding area, not to mention the windbreak that the trees provide themselves against storms. We're going to be seeing increased frequency of storms and increased intensity of storms in the coming future. So we really need to prepare and protect the areas that are like a bulwark to defend against these upcoming storms. We really need to make sure that we protect the soil itself because it's a very important resource. And I would like to submit that maybe we do some kind of educational programs similar to what was suggested before about bringing students in and teaching them the value of native species of plants, how they protect the soil, or native species of animals, and how they interact with the larger circle of the environment. So overall, I'd just like to see the focus of this development become more about conserving the actual nature that's already there. I would like to see some kind of observation build so that people could really see more of a better perspective than they can right now. I feel like there's really great potential there to kind of bring people back in, to show them that we really need to start focusing on protecting what little natural resources we have left. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Laura, and I'll let her give the last name. I think I may have missed it a moment ago.
It was close. Laura Bevan. My address is 2936 Joyce Drive, Tallahassee, Florida. I also own property in a place in Arbor Hills, 3213 Albert Drive. And I've been in Tallahassee since 1964. Only left for a short period of time, but lived most of my life in the northwest section. When I moved from Arbor Hills over to Joyce Drive, which is in the northwest area. One of the saddest things that I missed was A.J. Henry Park, and that is a gorgeous park. It's a passive park. I walk through with my dogs almost every day, walking through that park, and I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed Indian Mounds on the northwest side. I would like to have another passive park to walk under the trees in the shade. We have the Fred George Park. I drive by there all the time, and most of the time it's empty. The ball fields are only limited use. There's a bunch of emptiness. But those nature parks are important to people. Even in the heat of summer, you have the ability to go out there. So I would ask you, and I appreciate the comments saying that we'll relook at it. We don't really need any more ball fields. We've got them. They're limited use. They're probably really expensive to keep up. We need another nature place. That's what touches our hearts, and that's what we would like in our community. So I ask you to involve the community more in the northwest area, and let's keep that nature park with all many of the different ideas here, but leave it for us and nature. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Kia Heron, and then we'll hear from Stanley Sims.
Good evening. I'm Kaya Heron, and I live in northwest Tallahassee at 1010 Rosemary Terrace. Thank you for your time today. Dear Commissioners, should we denude about 80% of Northwest Park to create athletic facilities such as redundant ball fields? We don't need such duplication, especially at the expense of a nature preserve. The Northwest Park is currently a respite from city life, a home to a tremendous variety of wildlife critters, and a lovely haven of oaks and other trees, which our city claims to protect and value. Questions for the city. You state you're committed to creating this park in a balanced way. How can the natural qualities of the Northwest Park be maintained when the majority of nature in the park would be removed? What is your definition of balance? Athletic facilities are contradictory to the quiet, natural characteristics of the park as it is today. Loudly cheering fans and cars honking and driving in and out on pavement don't facilitate a quiet space for animals to thrive and for people to enjoy the green space. You state that the park will provide the desired active recreational amenities. Desired by whom? How can those amenities enhance, not harm, the passive recreational areas? Have a needs assessment and a feasibility study been conducted? If so, where can we find them to read the reports of findings? You state that the data from your tree survey will be used to develop the final placement of requested amenities. Again, who has requested these amenities? Have you listened only to the loudest voices? What are the specific amenities that these requesters have requested? You state that the site plan is currently being designed. Where can we see that? You state that this park would provide amenities not otherwise available nearby. How do you define nearby? My understanding is that the facilities you plan to install at the park are already available less than a mile from this park. You state that the community will have opportunities to provide feedback after the final site plan is developed. Why are you waiting until after a final site plan is developed? By then you'll have invested quite a few dollars. If the feedback you get is to refrain from carrying out this plan, as everyone here today has stated, you will have wasted a lot of funding. You state that the new park will help meet the growing demand for active recreational facilities and green space in the community. The green space is there now. There are recreational facilities available all over the city, but there are very few green space areas available. A petition with nearly 500 signatures is on its way to you shortly. Please heed it.
A couple of seconds left.
Okay. Dear Commissioners, please don't destroy this precious nature preserve by adding redundant, costly, nature-destroying athletic facilities. Thank you for this opportunity to speak and for considering my points.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Stanley Sims, and then Micah Maxwell.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. I was going home until this thing about the city manager's position came up. I thought I'd better stick around. I can understand why Mitch Connell is pushing for the Supreme Court justice. But what I can't understand is why Nancy Miller is pushing for this process to be expedited up. And I'm glad you find it humorous, because I find it scary.
You need
Because
to review the tape of the meeting and see what I asked for. It was not to speed up the process.
my grandma raised me, when other people talking, just be quiet, so I'm gonna shut up. So now, here's my thing. Our city employees have raised to the occasion. And when I say that, I include my wife of 20-some years, and I include my son, who just sworn into the Navy, who is at Holloman Park right now. He's not at Holloman Park because of Reese. He's at Holloman Park because Rick Fernandez had a heart. And he would not allow Reese Gow to take his personal feelings against me and hold it against my son. Here's what's not mentioned. We are up under an FBI investigation. As of right now, the Waste Pro vice president is at the federal building. And that condescending remark that you didn't think that the candidates had the wherewithal, the intelligence to make a decision is just ludicrous. We have the president of the credit union bank that's running. We have Diane Cox, who is real known in this community. We have Jeremy. I'm just going to call everybody's name. We have Bob. We have credible people in this race. And I want someone who is objective, who can shake my hand while they make over $200,000 of my tax dollars. And I'm asking this. I'm tired of the play for play and the slide in if you're connected. Why do we have, as the interim manager, the individual with the less academia of all the city managers? He has less management experience and he has less education than all of them. And this is what really get me. I got to go because he's finna tell me. My son, Commissioner Miller, just took the ethics test. He made 100 on the ethics test for the city. And he got in the truck, Commissioner Commissioner Ziffer, and he asked me, he said, Dad, he said, I just took the ethics test. And I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, I made 100. I said, well, I'm very proud of you, son. He said, but isn't that common sense? And the reason I bring that up is because even though he's doing a tremendous job, but he haven't acted on the HR director who signed in her application that you know how you to conduct yourself. But he hasn't acted on it. The Ethics Commission has said going to football games on the city is wrong.
Thank you, Stanley. Next speaker.
Next is Micah Maxwell, and then Barney Johnson.
How are you doing? My name is Micah Maxwell. I live at 2525 Hartsfield Road, number 19. I apologize if I talk a bit fast. I get a bit nervous. I'd like to speak about the Northwest Park development. Frankly, I agree with everyone that's spoken so far that it should stay natural. Whenever the Parks and Rec Department has been spoken to about it, they repeatedly mention pickleball and setting up pickleball courts, which I don't know if you know what that is. It is a very popular sport among retirees. It's no secret that the city of Tallahassee has been trying to attract a retiree population here because they tend to have more money and it would be more revenue for the city. I think that's a bad idea because, quite frankly, if the retirement population is going to move anywhere, it's going to be the villages. And if the STD transmission rates in the villages are any indicator, it is a hotbed of nothing but golf and key parties. Tallahassee can't compete with that. Tallahassee should not try to compete with that. Instead, we should keep the park as natural as possible, and instead of focusing on trying to bring pickleball courts and retirees into town, maybe focus on the fact that 60% of the population lives in unaffordable housing. In order for housing to be affordable, it has to be 30% of what the person's income is. A study done by Leon County in 2015 stated that 60% of the population here does not live in housing that is considered affordable. I realize the city of Tallahassee is not Leon County, but you are a sizable chunk of it. And we would appreciate it if maybe you'd look into rent prices, maybe look into the price of housing, maybe look into building more housing for the very large homeless population that's hanging outside of that guy's fence, and we'll kill two birds with one stone. Because as it is right now, you seem to be going after 2 snowbirds in the bush with the retirees and ignoring all the birds you have in your hand. So, thank you for your time, and please keep that park natural.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Barney Johnson, and then Rex Rectus.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Barney Johnson. I reside at 4449 Bluebill Pass. I'm speaking on the behalf of the great citizen at the Tallahassee International Airport. I met with you all approximately about 4 months ago. Our concern is to implement a living wage at the Tallahassee International Airport. In the last 10 years, there have been 9 to 12 airports that raised their wages and to the living wage. The CEO of American Airlines, David Parker, in the 2018 magazine, he stated that the airline no longer lose money. It's a business model. The young men and young women that work at the Tallahassee International Airport are making a minimum wage. The living wage at the airports in these 9 to 12 different airports is $13.50 to start. There's sensitive information that's given to these agents on a daily basis, the security issues that they have to perform on a daily basis to keep our public airlines safe. It's very important that y'all look into this matter due to the fact that in 1978, the minimum wage was at $2.65. 40 years later, the minimum wage is at $8.50. Working in the heat, the sun, and the cold, I think that these citizens at the Tallahassee International Airport deserve better for their wages. To say that, I'm asking you all to look into this matter, and if we need someone to put this on the next agenda for this month of November, I'm sure we can get this passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. In fact, the last time you were here, there felt like unanimous support to look into the whole what authority we had over vendors who did work at the airport. We have already moved the city wages for all full-time workers to livable. In the city of Tallahassee, Leon County has done the same thing for their employees. And I would just like to echo the call that we had the last time when we talked about this, for us to explore what power this commission has over establishing livable wages for full-time employees at the airport, which is a property that we own and vendors subcontract.
I also like to say down Delta, they stepped up the ante. They stepped their wages up to 13. But the people that below, you got your wholly owns. Another thing you need to take a look at, we need better transportation. I mean, for us going south, going north, maybe you guys can push the airlines to look at bringing a destination like West Palm Beach. I work in the airline industry. I've been in the airline industry over 30 years. We haven't did 1 million passengers deplaning or deplaning probably in the last 12 years. So customers asking for better service to West Palm Beach or Fort Lauderdale.
Yep, we agree.
Thank you for your concern.
We agree. Thank you. Commissioner Miller.
I just want to be clear that our speaker was referencing employees of others, not employees of the city. Is that correct? Because we have established that. All right, thank you.
Correct.
Next speaker is Rex Rextus. Mayor, he's the last speaker that I have for the evening.
Hello. I know some of you up there, but some of you might know me. But I got called into this somewhat by a group called the Northwood Association of people that live in our district, Northwest. Now I'm here to say that I have been to the Northwest Park out there, and I took a look around with Alex here, and he told me that they were going to put in 4 new ballparks, and I understood that there's a Fred George Park up there. I've been to a few times myself just to look at the area and use the facilities as far as the walking. But I did want to say that I think that maybe there's a possibility that Fred George Park could also hold a couple more ball fields up on the, I guess it would be the north end of the property. There's, I think now, a couple of lakes that are probably about 2 to 3 foot deep at the most. But I'm just here to also lend support, and hopefully you guys will understand that everybody in that region has that as an area of, to walk around. And if you've never been there, I would suggest you try to go out there. I've taken pictures of it and put it on my Facebook page. But it's a very beautiful place, and I hope that you understand that there's a lot of people here that would love to keep it as it is, but I'm sure there's got to be an equal mix of, of development. But I hope you'll take that into consideration, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Rex.
No further speakers.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, we're now on the point of sharing of ideas, and I want to just begin with one, which is to...
And if you look at it, I identified two things.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. On Dr. Jackson's speaker form, he had also marked the unagended portion of the meeting, and I had set that form aside. I apologize.
Got it. No worries. Mr. Jackson.
You know, and this is Dr. Erwin Jackson, 1341 Jackson Bluff. Yeah, that's the same place. The reason I made this big sign, I wouldn't have had to spend $120 for this if this speaker's podium was left over there. But this commission doesn't want to hear from the public. They don't want the public to have access to share information. Right over there, they have a projector. We could use it, but to keep the projector away from the public, they move us back here so we don't have a projector. So you want to share information? You got to spend $120 to get a poster made. Second thing, if I got here an hour early, and if I was smart enough, I might be able to get it on this little thing, and it'd be projected up there. Now, the public needs to understand, just because something is shown up on that screen, 5 or 6 times when I have something to show, the folks in the TV room seem to forget to turn the presentation that you see in the chamber out to those folks sitting at home. It's the way this commission confines, controls, eliminates my right to speak. This is the only way that I can assure myself, and the cameras are looking at me, so as long as I'm close to this sign, they're both going to be on TV. We shouldn't have to do that in a free society. Second issue, we talked about Fernandez here, Mike Tadros. Mike Tadros was in charge of all the corrupt activities, spatial dealing for our past city manager. All right, I've got 12 city employees who'd be more than happy to talk to the FDLE about the corruption that's going on. I got a phone call. I got 4 phone calls. And Reese, be sure and make a note of this. There's a party that's being funded by the city, and I wasn't invited. Matter of fact, I had 4 city employees call me yesterday and today, and they were told under no circumstances should anyone let Dr. Jackson know about this city-sponsored party. And I said, that hurt my feelings, but that's okay. What's the party? It's the Mike Tadros retirement party that's 5 o'clock tomorrow using city funds. And again, that's the example of the corruption that's continuing.
You have about 10 seconds remaining.
I'm going to be there tomorrow, uninvited with my camera, and we'll take pictures. And Reese, if you want to start an investigation, start with Michelle Hill. That is Tadros' administrative assistant 3.
Your time's expired.
She's been working on this for a couple weeks solid. We have city employees, we have city staff, city materials are being used for that party. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioners, actually, I wanted to begin by acknowledging, thank you, sign holder. And
if we left it over there, we wouldn't have to waste time for him to hold the sign.
I appreciate
so
it.
you might want to make a motion. We move it back.
I appreciate it.
I know
I believe
Daly and several
this is the
commissioners wanna do
mayor's
that.
time now.
It's expired.
This is the mayor's time now.
I appreciate it. But I did want to acknowledge, on another note, that this is the final meeting for one of our city employees who has spent 30 years of dedicated service to the city of Tallahassee, who has, under his leadership, helped to achieve not only statewide, but also national recognition on behalf of the city of Tallahassee and its employees. He will be retiring. I just want him to know, on behalf of a very, very, very grateful city commission, and on behalf of the nearly 200,000 residents of the city limits and those beyond the city limits who benefit from the services that your department has provided. Mike Tadros, we want to thank you for 30 committed, dedicated years. We appreciate it, and good luck.
Commissioner, City Manager, the executive team, if you allow me a couple of minutes just
Sure.
to reframe. I really
You have
appreciate-
3. I'm joking.
I really appreciate the City of Tallahassee as an organization. When I moved to the United States in '87, I joined the City of Tallahassee in '88. It changed my perspective. I have fulfilled my dream with me and my family. I came here with my kids. They were 6 and 3. Now they are in the medical field, both of them in Florida, and I really appreciate every day I spend here in the City of Tallahassee. I was honored to serve this committee. For the party tomorrow, this is supposed to be private party. It's paid by my understanding. I wasn't included, wasn't involved in that. And it's been a surprise for get away for me, but I doubt it. There's a single penny paid by the City of Tallahassee for this. And if it is, I will pay it tomorrow. I really served this committee to the best of my ability, and I was honest, and I haven't done anything I felt that is illegal or unethical serving this committee. I'm very proud, very honored, very privileged to be part of this town. Thank you very much for your leadership.
Job well done, sir. Commissioner Ziffer.
I can't not do this, and I'm sorry. But I've been here almost 9 years, and Mike Tadros has been a gentleman. He's been a hard worker. He's shown leadership. And he doesn't deserve the comments that have been made about him over the last 6, 7 months or so. That's the first thing. The second thing is, over those 9 years, I did some quick calculations. It's about 180 meetings, at city commission meetings, not Blueprint or CRA or anything like that, that I've been to. And Dr. Jackson, you've been to just about every one of them. And if you throw in 3 minutes to every one of them, that means that I have listened for over 9 hours of you talking. So you have had, sir, plenty of time to have your voice heard. I don't think there's any question that over those 9 years, anybody else has ever spoken more before this commission or had an opportunity to be on TV more. So I'm sure you have this federal lawsuit you're going to bring to us, and you do what you need to do. But the fact is, this commission, this city, does allow people to come forward. We do allow people to speak. We were concerned when you came to us and started throwing things at us. Because quite frankly, excuse me, you've made a big deal about not being interrupted. And now I'm talking. And I rarely talk more than 60 seconds, but I'm going to spend a moment on this. That was a concern. And it should be, because in this day and age, the things that are happening in this country and in this world, people's safety is a concern. So that had to be moved, and quite frankly, sir, it was because of what you demonstrated could happen, somebody throwing something that, as harmless as what you did was, it might not have been by somebody else. So I'm proud of this city. I'm proud of this commission. I'm proud of our ability to speak openly. I will tell you, having traveled this state, cities do this. Not because we have to, it's because we need to hear from our citizens. And I will tell you that I have, in the course of this meeting, changed my opinion on something, and I think we do need to relook at the Northwest Park. I do think, because people came and spoke. Now, that's not to say that I don't think we ought to build some of those things that we wanted to build, but there does appear to me to be some kind of compromise here that we should look at. So, speaking helps. Being civil helps. I will tell you, all those folks that came, you didn't even need to bring a sign, did you? We just listened. So thank you very much, Dr. Jackson. I know you'll be back for a long period of time. I only have one more thing to say. Tomorrow's Capitol Tiger Bay, seat 3, Commissioner Miller's seat. The candidates will be there. God bless them all, because they're going to learn. One of them is going to learn a whole lot over the next couple of years. So thank you very much. I hope everybody has a good summer break.
Yes, you too. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Miller.
Well, I wanted to pick up, I had 3 items that I wanted to share with y'all. Well, in my last opportunity here for a couple of months. And one of those was that I wanted to recommend that we all go out to the Northwest Park over our break. And I also, the other thing, really, I mean, after hearing the description, it's certainly a place I'd like to visit. I also would like for everyone, all of us, and all of you possibly, to go to Tom Brown Park and see 2 things. The Friends of the Parks have funded an absolutely wonderful playground in the back, kind of the back of the park. And one day when my children were there playing with some other children, I took the opportunity to walk the dog around a path around the lake there. And guess what I discovered? I discovered a disc golf course out there. And I think that if you all see what it looks like, I don't know how many of you have ever actually seen a disc golf course. And in fact, the only other one I've seen, I discovered the exactly same way because I was walking the dog and I'm going, what are these things here? And I think it'll make people feel a little better, at least about that amenity. That's the word of the evening, it seems. And because you don't see it. I mean, the challenge is that you're trying to throw through the trees, and I wouldn't have figured out what it was even if it hadn't been for the fact that I'd seen this other one before in another place that was much more open. But this one in Tom Brown Park, must be incredible. I don't see anybody could do it because basically they did virtually no disturbance between the spots where you tee off or whatever you do. So I'd say we all ought to get out and have some outdoor adventures during the summer and then come back a little bit more well-versed in our parks. And I also think that we need a little bit better coverage on in all of our communications media about just what parks are available to people. Because it's obvious that there are a lot of folks who love to walk in the woods, and there are a number of places where you actually can do that. So I think you might enjoy some of the others too, like Lake Overstreet and those areas there. But I think we maybe need to ramp up our exposure about where those 93 parks are that we have. So that said, I'll move on to the next thing. Signage. I think one of Commissioner Ziffer referenced the election that's going on, and as we have in years past, at some point the staff goes out and does a cleanup because the community starts getting very littered with signs. I'm all for signs. Commissioner Ziffer also sent me an email at the last election that I had won, and then when I looked down in the text, it said the sign battle because I had quite a few signs out, but they were always on private property. That's the rule. I mean, people can put out as many signs as they want, but they need to be on private property, and the citizenry does not need to have to deal with the litter with what appears to be junk, all over the place. And so I'd suggest to the management that you send a crew out and start send a letter to the candidates, all of them, tell them what the rules are, and say, okay, you've got a week to move your signs, and then after that week's over, go out and pick them up, and I think that'll get the message across pretty well. Finally, the visitor center building is either sold or for sale, the one right across the street, and that's going to close. But we had already identified the problem of people coming into City Hall earlier, and we need to do a couple things down there. We need to make sure that we have, there are those tear-off maps of the city, and I think that the security people are trying to tell people where things are or what they could do, that sort of thing. And I think that we should give them a little bit more information and make it a little easier for them to actually show people the right direction. One way we need to give them a little bit more instruction, and we also need to make sure they have those tear-off maps. Now, I would go so far as to add that I'd really like to see us, if we can do those two things, I'll be happy. But I'd also like to see, as you walk in the front door, on the left side, the wall there, just set up with brochures and information for people in town to put information about Tallahassee. I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult to do, and then our local organizations can, and I think Visit Florida would be Visit Tallahassee would be very helpful in making sure it's neat, making sure it has good information on it for people, and because we certainly want to be welcoming, not only to, and a lot of people come in here, look at all the people we had tonight, there may be things that, to do that they don't know about, and as they walk in, this is City Hall, and as they walk in, it'd be nice for them to have access to that information. Thank you, and I certainly hope you all have a wonderful summer.
You too.
I know I won't, I think I won't see you all for a while, but I'm absolutely sure I will. So,
great. Thank you,
tomorrow
Commissioner.
at lunch.
Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had one item. July 4th, a lot of people enjoy fireworks, but our pets do not enjoy fireworks. Many people's pets, and the problem has become that people do fireworks on July 3rd and July 5th and July 6th and the whole time around, not just on the specific day. But I noticed in another community that they had volunteers that would go to their animal shelter and comfort the pets during the 4th of July. I know, especially with our Animal Services Center being right next to Tom Brown Park where the fireworks are there, I know our staff does a great job of trying to comfort the pets, but I'd like to have staff bring us back some information on possibly starting a volunteer program to do that on New Year's Eve and 4th of July. I know I'll volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything, Rattler? I see your orange and green tie. I just figured I would name you Rattler. All right. If there's nothing further, Commissioners, I do, as others have said, absolutely wish everybody an amazing summer. It will be a busy one for some and maybe a relaxing for others. But before we adjourn, I want to yield the floor to City Manager for some comments.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just real quick, I'd just like to echo the comments that you guys expressed earlier. I've been able to work with Mike Tadros for 18 years, and if I can just take a fraction of his passion and energy and enthusiasm for the city and play that forward or pay it forward, we will all be doing well. And I'd like to thank him for his friendship, his professionalism, and everything he's done. And I want to let him know that he's set up a team that's in really, really good shape. I think we all know that. And so we should be very comfortable moving forward, and I hope he enjoys his retirement. Thank you.
Hear, hear. All right, you all, we stand in adjournment.